Mic'd up.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Hall of Fame Conversations. I'm joined by my host, Barry Smith, who is a Florida Sports Hall of Famer, FSU great. My name is John Reger. I'm a PGA golf professional. And these are casual conversations that we're having on behalf of the Florida Sports Hall of Fame with our Hall of Famers. And we do this through the Mic'd Up social app, which is a fun thing to do. You download the app, and people actually ask questions for it. And because we have our next guest on, we've got a lot of questions here. Even one of our former Sports Hall of Famers, Rick Barry, from class of 1967, has a question. So I'd like to introduce Wade Boggs. Wade Boggs, everybody knows that he's a baseball Hall of Famer, Florida Sports Hall of Famer, and probably a Hall of Famer more than we actually know, but we know him as a Hall of Fame guy. So with that, I'd like to introduce Wade Boggs to Hall of Fame Conversations. Welcome, Wade.
Thanks, John. Great to be here. Barry, always great to see you.
Always great to see you, Wade. Thanks for being on.
Oh, my pleasure.
So, Barry, why don't you lead us off with a question? And it doesn't even have to be about baseball, but let's just start with baseball. How about that?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, when you talk about Wade Boggs, it's all about greatness. And in greatness, not only from Wade's standpoint as an individual, but his family is fantastic. And really, I really sense the fact that Veterans Day just got over. But really, my first question really to Wade, because doing some research on Wade, found out that both his mother and father served in the military and served, I'd say, at a very high level, a very unique level, and God bless him. And Wade, would you mind sharing a little bit about your mom and dad and their service to our country?
Sure, absolutely, Barry. One thing that I'm very proud of my parents, and not only my parents, but brother and nephew. My father spent his 16th birthday at Guadalcanal, and he was a sophomore in high school and forged his birth certificate and wound up spending his 16th birthday in Guadalcanal. And my mom flew in the Women's Air Corps. She was a Marine also. And my brother was a Marine. He served in Vietnam. And my nephew, James, stormed Baghdad. So we've got a litany of Marine individuals, Simplify, in our family. And couldn't be more proud. My dad wrote a book just trying to get it published from Guadalcanal to Cooperstown. And it's sort of one of those, if my father gets shot in Guadalcanal, there's no Wade Boggs. So
Wow.
It's an interesting book, and just looking for a publisher out there if you know one, Barry.
Like I said, my head's spinning at what your family, their commitment to our country and what they've done. So God bless you and them, and God bless America. Now, okay, moving on to baseball. Obviously, I was one of those guys. I love baseball, but I got to high school, couldn't hit a curveball, so thank God I could catch a football. But I was fascinated to learn that when you were in high school, that you were actually a quarterback. I think a quarterback at Plant High. Would you expand on that one? Tell us about that.
Well, actually my sophomore year I played 3 sports, and I played basketball as well. And my junior year, my father made me make a decision about you got to pick 2 of the 3. And I was a quarterback at the time, so I wasn't going to give that up. And I was a shortstop on a baseball team. So those were the 2 best options that I had. And my junior year, I had Johnny Majors come down from the University of Pittsburgh to offer me a scholarship to hand off to Tony Dorsett. So I was one of those, do I want to grow up to be Joe Namath, or do I want to grow up to be Reggie Jackson? It was one of those, who do I want to grow up to be? And my first love was always baseball, naturally. And but in the back of my mind, I always wanted to grow up to be Joe Namath. That was one of my heroes. And I got to meet him for a brief moment here in Tampa when they came to the Sombrero to play the Packers one year. But yeah, I really enjoyed football, but I knew where my bread was buttered, and as far as longevity, I knew that my tenure in baseball would be a little bit longer than it would be in football.
Wade.
You were mentioning your dad and your mom and World War II, Guadalcanal, and possibly a book coming out. When you were growing up, and I know that every kid has a different generation based on their generation of baseball stars, but I know, like in the world of golf, sometimes even though that you may have grown up in the era of Nicklaus and Palmer, you still may have some sort of look back to Bobby Jones or Sammy Snead and that kind of stuff. When you were growing up, even though you emulated the stars at the time, were there any particular, and since you're part of baseball history now, is there any players from yesteryear that you look at and you go, wow, that's really cool, that you admired?
Ted Williams, greatest hitter that ever lived. Yeah, I had great opportunity to spend a lot of time with Ted. And one of the things that I regret probably to the day I die is never asking Ted to go fishing. And had the opportunity so many times just to say, hey, Ted, let's go get on a flats boat in Isla Morada and let's go chase some bonefish around. And I guarantee the answer would have been yes. And till this day, it really haunts me. It really, really irritates me because I think about it every day. I've got a sort of a shrine to Ted Williams in my house. And when he passed away, he willed his fly rod and shotgun and various things of that caliber to me when he passed away in his will.
Wow.
But yeah, he's one guy that I analyzed immensely, and just wish that 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 came to fruition, and it would have sort of made my life complete.
Speaking of Wade, you talk about the shrine to Ted Williams. I've had the pleasure of attending several parties in your house over the years. And for those that have never been to Wade's house, besides a wonderful house with kids everywhere and all that stuff, very family oriented, it's also kind of like a museum of natural history because every floor you got like you got different segments of wild animals. You got the hunting and then the fishing, and it's really fascinating. And I was curious that first of all, you obviously Debbie is a saint to let you do this because I can tell you my wife would never let me do that. But
Well, actually, Debbie has some animals in the house herself, so she's on the hook as well.
what is from a big gaming standpoint, let's say your most exciting trip that you ever took, or maybe one of those that you go, uh-oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this?
Well, I spent 3 years in Africa, and I got the big five and dangerous seven, and brought back I think 60 or 65 other animals from Africa. But I just I love the continent. I love the people. The Maasai tribe. I got to spend some time over there and going to the schools. A lot of money that goes to the conservation aspect that people don't understand. A lot of it goes to the schools that furnish pencils and paper and sort of gives the people of the areas that you're going a better chance in life. And as far as the elephant went, the meat went to 9 villages and it fed them for about 8 or 9 months. So it was one of those aspects that you're in there for naturally the sport of it, but going back to what the benefits are of when you take an animal of that magnitude and then deal with helping the schools, helping the villages, and just the conservation aspect of it.
Nice. Did you ever have a rhino charge you?
Oh, absolutely! I darted a rhino over there. That's fun. Yeah, the white rhino. Thank goodness they can only run straight ahead, and if you jump out of the way at the right time, he won't get you. But we had a veterinarian on site, and when we gave him the antidote and woke him up, it was sort of like living out a Doc Tari John Wayne movie when he charged the vehicle and tried to ram the
Right.
vehicle. So exciting nevertheless.
Hey, Reger, and I thought crossing Del Mabry was a challenge.
Well, yeah, I mean, this brings back memories of like Mutual Omaha's Wild Kingdom, and you know, Jim's out of the boat again, everybody. So
Oh yeah,
sounds like a lot of fun over there. You
with the
said
big
3 years.
anacondas and all of that. Oh, I remember that like it was yesterday.
So 3 years. Did you live there for 3 years? You just
Oh
went
no.
back
For 3 years in a row, I went to Tanzania, Mozambique, South Africa, and Zimbabwe. So
Wow.
I went to 4 different countries in 3 years and spent safaris over there. So it was just amazing. It's an amazing continent. It's amazing. The various countries that I went to, got to see Victoria Falls and uh, stay in tents and see the black mambas and crocodiles and all of that and actually the hippo that I killed had killed 5 villagers the night before. So it was a
Holy
rogue
smokes.
hippo and wound up being the chief for the day uh, because of the fatalities that had happened the night before and wound up taking the rogue hippo out.
Well,
Wow.
that's really cool to be chief for a day. So I don't want to ask you, what went on in the teepee or anything like that
no,
evening, but
no, they
that's
just carry you
wonderful.
around in a chair and all that good stuff, and you get a staff, so you just carry it around and and everybody hoot and hollers at you.
Yeah,
Wait,
that's fantastic. That's
y- y-
absolutely fantastic.
hey,
Hey, part of this mic'd up social app here, we have people that ask questions, and what they do in advance, that when they're regular users of the app, they'll ask this question. They may have asked this question a week or two ago when they found that you came on. So these are recorded questions, and these are from our listeners and viewers out there on the mic'd up social app. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play one of those questions, and none other from Rick Berry. So we're going to play a question from Rick Berry for you. So let me go ahead and find the button to push. And here we go. We'll listen to the question and let you answer. Now, just keep in mind, we had some fun a couple of weeks ago with one of our Hall of Famers, Henry Lawrence. And every time I told him to play a recorded question, he thought he was talking live to the person. So it was just kind of humorous at that particular point. So just to give you a heads up on here. So you ready? Here we go.
Rick Barry here, Wade. Enjoyed our fishing trips together. They only give me 30 seconds, so I got to be quick. So congratulations on the best hitting average in Fenway Park over Ted Williams. That's amazing. And what the hell happened in 1984? You won the batting title in 1983, and then you won 1985 through 88. So something took place there. You slumped off in that year. So explain to everybody what the heck happened. Hey, all the best to you. Look forward to seeing you down the road. God bless.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate it. Yeah, we go back to the Cabo days and fishing for striped marlin down there. Great question. Great. That's a great question. I I had a wonderful year. I hit 325 that year. But Don Mattingly and Dave Winfield had a lot better seasons than I did that year. Actually, uh, Donnie beat out Dave Winfield, I think, on the last couple days or so to win the batting title that year. But a lot of my line drives probably were caught that year that I scalded into left field. But took a year off and then come back and won 4 in a row.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
That's pretty cool.
Wade, got a question here. I'll say, you signed your pro contract, when you out of high school and bypassed college, and you spent maybe a little more time in the minor leagues than you probably wanted to. You want to go into that, like, because I actually we're one of the top hitters in minor league baseball, but somehow we're getting the call. And I was just kind of, if you might take us through that process when you finally did get the call to to go to the majors.
Well, 1976, I was drafted by Boston, and that was one of the big decisions that I had to make. I was going to be the starting shortstop at the University of South Carolina under Bobby Richardson, and so they were coming off of their World Championship season, and their shortstop was graduating, and I was going to be a starting shortstop in college as a freshman. So then when Boston drafted me, I had to make that decision. And my high school coach, David Fife, and my dad went outside. We discussed the options. My scout, George Digby, was there at the time on June 11th in 1976. And I asked my dad, I said, what do I do? And he said, son, it's time for you to grow up and become a man. And these words are coming from someone who spent their 16th birthday in Guadalcanal. So they resonated really strong with me as far as a 17-year-old goes, that really it's time for me to grow up and become a man. And I told my dad, I said, Dad, the only thing I've ever really dreamed of doing is playing professional baseball. And he says, well, is that the decision? And I said, I think it is. I'm going to, if things don't work out, then I'll go back to college and do whatever I have to do. But I want to pursue that highway and see where it leads. And went to Elmira 4 days later. We wound up winning the New York Penn League that year in '76. Come to find out down the road that Dick Berardino, my manager that year, was going to ask the Red Sox to release me. He didn't think that I could play. And I guess the 268 average that I had sort of didn't really wake up anybody and didn't throw any bells and whistles out there. But in my eyes, I felt like that was my senior year in high school, because I graduated when I was 17. Right. And spent my 18th birthday in Elmira, New York. So came out the next year, went to Winston-Salem and hit 332 the next year. So that's when the progression of me sort of waking up as a hitter started. And the next 4 years, I wound up hitting over 300. My last year in Pawtucket, 1981, I wound up leading the league in average that year. And the Red Sox pulled up 7 guys off the team, and I wasn't one of them. And I was kind of dumbfounded to try to figure out what else you got to do in this game, lead the league in hitting in AAA and not get called up to the big leagues. And for me, it was sort of, okay, let's put that chip on your shoulder and see how far it goes. And within 2 weeks, I was in Puerto Rico playing winter ball, and got added to the 40-man roster in December of that year in 1981, and invited to spring training on the 40-man roster. And I had I didn't go to college, but I went to MLU, which in my words were minor league university. I spent 5.5 years there in the minor leagues, and so by the time I got to the big leagues in '82, I was well seasoned.
Yep.
That's absolutely fantastic. Hey, got another question here from Matt Steinmetz. I'm going to go ahead and push the button here. Matt hosts the show on Mic'd Up app here and talks a lot about sports. Here we go. Here's something on display.
Hey, Wade, what was it like to go from the fans in Fenway Park to the fans in Tampa Bay? Must have been quite a difference for you.
Well, it wasn't as big a difference as going from the fans in Fenway Park to the fans at Yankee Stadium. Believe me, that was a different story. But I was really proud of being in the inaugural season of Tampa Bay and becoming a Tampa Bay Devil Ray in 1998 and spending 2 years there. I wore a lot of hats when I was in Tampa Bay. I was a player. I was a front office individual. I was a coach and a broadcaster. So I wore a lot of hats in Tampa Bay during the tenure that I was there. But growing up in Tampa, I always knew that Tampa was a hotbed for Major League Baseball, and they tried forever to try to get teams to relocate to Tampa. But once expansion came through, brought in Tampa Bay and Arizona, that I knew that Tampa would be a great place. It was all going to come down to the building, and Tropicana Field. They had me over there, and when I was playing for the Red Sox when they were building it, And the engineers were sitting there and saying that no baseballs will ever hit the structures in the top of the ceiling. And I looked up there, and they wanted me to hit fungos up to try to hit the roof. And I said, it's too low. It's absolutely too low. And they said, well, try to hit a ball up there. And I said, it's not a thrown up ball that you can hit with a fungo. It's a pitch ball of 90 miles an hour. That's a hitter fouls it straight up. Opening night, 98, March 31st, we had 6 balls hit the rafters. So, so it was one of those things that I looked up there, and I played the Metrodome, and they had speakers hanging down in the Metrodome, and Dave Kingman hit one through one of the little holes at the top of the Metrodome, which was so high. So you can imagine the low hanging ceiling in Tropicana Field that it presented a problem, and it sort of baffled the umpires. It baffled everybody to the point of trying to figure out what in the heck's going on. Is it a ground rule double? Is it fair? Is it foul? Is it a homer? So there were a lot of interesting conversations when it'd go up and start bouncing around, and it was crazy at times.
That is fantastic. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the first person in Major League Baseball history to hit a home run on their 3,000th hit is a guy named Wade Boggs.
Boy, they didn't have that in the Vegas odds. That's for darn sure. And yeah, it was a very special night, August 7th. One of those. I needed 3 hits. We're playing Cleveland, and my son was the bat boy, and we're going across the bridge. And I asked Brett. I said, "What do you think, buddy?" He says, "You got it tonight, Dad." I said, "I don't know. I'm facing Charlie Nagy for Cleveland. He's kind of tough on me, and I need 3 knocks." He says, "No." He says, "Tonight's the night." And I said, "Well, I said your sister is in a wedding in Fort Lauderdale, and she's going to miss it if I do it tonight." And he says, "Nah, tonight's the night." And there we are. We're back on.
Yeah, we're back on. Hey, for our listeners out there, yeah, this is part 2. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe it's a solar flare. Yeah, we started talking about hitting the ceiling through the roof at the Metrodome and down at Tropicana Field, and maybe Big Brother's looking at us like, "Hey, wait a second, we're getting ready to spend another $1 billion and build a new field down there at Tropicana." So, Wade, I hope that what happens is somehow we get you down there. You don't have to personally hit the ball, but they ought to get like a robot batting machine of some sorts and test that roof out and raise it up probably another 100 feet or so.
That'd be a good idea.
Well, good. Well, hey, this is part 2 of Hall of Fame conversation. So, hey, let's get another question here. I've got Shane Barclay, and let me push the button here. I haven't screened any of these questions, so I apologize in advance. Here we go.
It's pretty ironic that you had a home run for your 3,000th hit because you were a classic batting average hitter, contact hitter, really tough out in what would now be considered an old school way. Can you please talk about your thoughts on the importance of base hits and batting average? When you watch a game nowadays in the playoffs, lots of times they don't even show the batting average for the player. And I'm wondering what you think about that stat in today's climate.
Well, that's a great question. The one thing that I hear from all the sabermetric guys now is the batting average doesn't matter. Last time I checked is in order to get on base and score runs, the team that scores the most runs wins. It's not the ones that make the most outs or hits the ball the hardest. If a guy throws a no-hitter and everybody on the team's exit velocity is 118 miles an hour and all 27 of them make an out, guess what? You lose. I've always been an advocate of what Ted Williams says. The most difficult thing to do in sport is hit a round ball with a round bat. And truer words couldn't be spoken, because it's the unique part of the sport. It's you against the guy 60 feet 6 inches away, and it's you against him. And in order to get on base and score runs and it was sort of like the guy for the Marlins that was hitting for such a high average, and everybody was condemning him for hitting singles and getting on base and scoring runs. And yet they praise guys that strike out with guys on third base and then hit a line drive to center field, and his exit velocity was 118, and he's still 0 for 2
Yeah.
and hasn't done anything in the game. But they praise these types of individuals. And the reason that a lot of times they don't put the batting averages up for the some of these players is because they're so miserable. Um, and a lot of them are under 200, which is the Mendoza line. And a guy comes up to the plate and he's hitting a buck 90, and he's already struck out 175 times in the year, and but he hits the ball hard. Boy, that's terrific. And you know, I always love a bloop and a blast. You're you're winning 2-0 with a bloop and a blast. So
Wade, question: when did, in your style from, let's say, high school through the minors to the majors, when did you ever change your batting style, and what do you contribute your well, obviously you have God-given talent, but you have to work your ass off to perfect that. Um, that you were so consistent hitting the ball.
I think it goes back, Barry, to my eyesight. I was 2012, and I could see spin on the baseball and
Whoa.
make adjustments halfway to home plate and sort of do what was needed as far as the swing goes. Like Rick Barry said, I had the highest batting average in Fenway Park. Mine was 368. Ted was 363. But when I got drafted, I was at an American Legion game at Al Lopez Field here in Tampa, and my dad came running down, and he said, "Seventh round, Boston." And I went over, hugged my dad, and he said, "Son, Fenway Park was built for you." And truer words could never have been spoken, because once I got to Fenway Park, went on a little Nautilus program, got a little stronger, I started utilizing that wall. And it was just wonderful to have that thing out there for 81 days and enjoy it as much as I did, and utilize it the way that I did with my inside out swing. And a lot of people compare me to, well, he doesn't hit enough home runs or this and that. The balls that I would hit high off the wall are home runs in other parks.
Yep.
If I'd have spent my whole career at Wrigley Field, my home run total would have been 300 plus with the balls that I hit to left center, and they're high off the wall in Fenway Park for a double. Uh, I'm rewarded for the double, but
Yep.
coincidentally, they weren't the home run that everybody lives by nowadays.
Uh, John, let me tell you a quick. I'm going to ask Wade to answer this one. First of all, I wanted to thank Wade. A number of years ago, Wade does a lot of over his lifetime and continues still do a lot of charitable work, giving back. He's not a taker. I took Wade Boggs to Havana, Cuba, and we did a humanitarian trip there. We took bats, balls, gloves, and all that, and we actually hooked. Wade did a bunch of clinics throughout the little Balcom, the barrios of Havana, Cuba, and it was a really, for me, it was wonderful to see what Wade did with the children. But what was amazing to me is that the Cuban nationals, they know more about American baseball than I think we do, and they damn sure knew who Wade Boggs was.
You're absolutely right, Barry, and thank you for taking Debbie and I to Cuba. We had such a wonderful time down there, and it was sort of like going back in a time warp. There were a lot of 55, 56 Chevys running around, and like you said, these young individuals down there, they eat, drink, and sleep baseball, and we had the opportunity to go to the Hot Corner, which is in downtown Havana, and Debbie came up with this wonderful idea. She said, "Why don't we package up a lot of baseball cards and put them in Ziploc baggies and just go down there and hand them out?" Well, we went to the Hot Corner, and they have their every day around noon. They have I wouldn't say arguments, but intense conversations
Yep.
about baseball. And I just coincidentally just sat down in the middle of it and listened to him talk about Jose Canseco. Uh, and it was mesmerizing. And then all of a sudden, one of the individuals recognized me, and you would have thought an absolute bomb went off. And they were so polite. They were so genuine. And I had a baggie full of bubblegum cards, and I sat there for about an hour signing bubblegum cards, and they lined up. They're very respectful, and each one of them got a bubblegum card. And it was such a great idea that Debbie had, and they enjoyed it so much. And you'd have actually thought that I'd given them $1 million a piece. They looked at it, they cherished it, and you could tell that they were going to take it home and put it on their mantle. And it was very touching for me to see that. And like you said, Barry, they know who Wade Boggs is in Cuba.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And again, thank you, because I know the besides the adults that got all those autograph cards, those kids, some of the stuff, the equipment that we were able to give out and hand out, and it was very meaningful to them. So thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Yep.
So Wade, one of the things we do at the Florida Sports Hall of Fame, we're trying to get a little bit more interactive with it, as in our mission statement, is with our Hall of Famers themselves to offer some advice to the younger people. A lot of times when you start talking about history, even though that, you and I and Barry, we feel that we're relatively young, but you know what? I was, recently retired as a PGA golf professional. I remember last summer I had a junior golf clinic, and they didn't even know who Tiger Woods was. They were more interested into the younger guys like Jordan Spieth or Ricky Fowler or something like that. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So one of the things that we try to do with our Hall of Famers is a young person today. Baseball's still very popular. It's probably like the number one thing that people want to do when they're kids. Growing up, I want to play baseball, right? What do you recommend to young people and their parents about these kids that want to play baseball? Because it seems like there's so many travel teams now and opportunities out there to travel and play baseball. But what would you recommend to a young person just like, let's go play baseball and have a good time?
Well, I sort of take it back to when you drive down a street and you see a vacant lot. When I was growing up, the vacant lot was full of kids playing wiffle ball or cork ball or broomstick with a tennis ball or something like that. Nowadays, when you drive by a vacant lot, it's a vacant lot. I'm not a firm believer that Nintendo and all of these games increase your eye-hand coordination. There's nothing wrong with a wiffle ball and a yellow bat to get that eye-hand coordination sort of going. And one thing that I discuss with parents is the burnout factor. These kids play travel ball in the summer, they play winter ball, and then they go into high school and they're have their season with the high school, and they're taking lessons twice a week, and the next thing you know, the individual is 17 years old. He's a senior in high school, and he's burnt out. He's been playing travel ball since he was 8. He's been taking lessons twice a week. And the next thing you know, he looks up and says, you know what, Mom? You know what, Dad? Baseball's just not fun anymore.
Yep.
You've got to keep it fun. You've got to keep it engaging. And not to say that overwork and overexposure will get you out of the game, that quality work and it's not the amount of repetitions that you take, it's the amount of quality repetitions that you take. You don't need to go out and take 500, 600 ground balls a day. If you could get your work done in 50 to 75 ground balls a day, do it the right way, proper mechanics. You don't need to take 1,000 swings a day. That's just unheard of. All you're doing is just beating up your body and trying to impress the guy out there that's given the lesson for an hour and trying to wear you out, basically, is what he's trying to do. But get back to understanding the game from an aspect of I understand that they tried to bring the sabermetrics in to get the younger generation motivated. That's just too many numbers in my book. To sit there and exit velocity and spin rate, and if a kid doesn't get his spin rate, then he's all bent out of shape. And if a kid's exit velocity is down, and what's wrong? And let's go back to the old school of keep it simple. The
Amen.
old KISS theory: keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
We know
And
you are so right. There's a movement out there. It's been going on for about 10 years. It's called the American Developmental Model, and it's when Major League Baseball and the PGA Tour and National Hockey League, the NFL, U.S. Olympic Committee all got together because they realized that American athletes weren't doing as well as athletes around the world. And what is it? What's going on? Why are we not achieving the same success that some of these other athletes are? It's much smaller countries with less resources. And you nailed it. They said the number one reason that most athletes quit the sport they're playing in by the time they get to high schools, it's like 70% of them, is because it's not fun anymore.
exactly.
It's a business. It's not fun. You know, and I know in the world of golf, the best golfers out there, I tell all the people I've trained. I've had numerous people go on to the PGA and LPGA tours and other worldwide tours. They got to take some time off. I mean, every year you're not supposed to play golf 12 months a year. It's the same thing for
Absolutely.
baseball. You're not supposed to play this sport 12 months a year. You just get burned out. I think you just nailed it right there, and that's what the American Developmental Model is. But one of the other things is, and this is a question I have for you, within that model, they said the other thing, the reason why kids quit playing the sport, even though they could have been, phenomenal younger, is bad coaching. They just they hate the coaching. They don't like the coaching, and coaching is such an integral part to have quality coaching. In your life as a baseball player, which coach made the biggest influence on you?
My father. Yeah, he coached me when I was in senior league 13, 14, 15. But that was just on field. I had my dad around me 24/7. And I would call when I was in the minor leagues, I would call him 3, 4 times a week. And he never wanted to know what my hits were. He always wanted to know what my outs were. And he could tell from my outs what I was doing wrong. And he was uh, probably one of Ted Williams' biggest fans, if not that I was. But I mean, just watching my dad sit in the dugout talking to Ted Williams was just a dream come true for me.
Wow.
And but as far as not my father, but it would have to be Walt Reniak, hitting coach for Boston when I was there. Um, Tremendous corner man, always in your brain, and just pushing you to be the best that you can be. And sometimes you didn't want to hear some of the things that he said, but that's fine. I think nowadays people are too soft on individuals, and I'm not saying that as a little league perspective. I'm saying that in a big league perspective. Um, a guy doesn't want to get yelled at. Well, sometimes you might need to be yelled at,
Yeah.
and do it in the batting cage under the tunnel, and just you and the player, and get in his face. And sometimes that speaks volumes when you do things like that, and it gets their attention a little bit if you can do it without their agents calling.
One of the things you talked about was getting burned out. I remember, I just got to tell this story about Barry because I had the honor of going to the 76 Bucks dinner a couple times. They all get together every year and celebrate their fantastic losing season in 1976 without a win. And I remember, and somebody asked Barry, he says, Barry, you had a lot of talent on this team. It wasn't made up of a bunch of schlumps. I mean, obviously these were players from all the other teams in the expansion draft, and they had to form a team, but still professional football. And I asked Barry, I said, why did it take so long for you guys to win your first game? And he goes, well, we did 2-a-day workouts, and by the time we got to Sunday, we were absolutely wiped out and beat by the time we got to the game.
Exactly. The
Well,
land of the misfits, Barry. I was
well,
there in Tampa Bay in '98. It's they
yep.
take a player from each club and put 25 guys together and say, you're a team.
Yep.
And there's a lot of growing pains and guys with very little experience. And I was the elder statesman on the team at 16 years in the big league. So I was sort of like the granddad of the team. And you've got guys with 35 days experience that are starting out there. But we didn't lose 100 games. That
No,
was that was our thing. We didn't lose 100
no,
games. That
no.
would be like going 0-16, Barry.
Well, Wade. One of the things that I was hoping John was going to finish, yes, the 2 days. But back in the day, all teams did 2-day practices. Okay,
Right.
but
Right.
generally back in the day, you had 2 to 3 weeks of 2 days, and you were done. Okay. Well, John McKay, in his infinite wisdom, we went 10 weeks of 2 days, 10 weeks
Wow.
of 2 days in pads, beating up one another. So by the time the season started, we were pretty well toast. A lot of guys were hurt, but beyond that, you know what? Sometimes it was a lot of fun being part of something that's new, and we do have a great group of guys that hey, we get together, and now it's not about how bad we were. We're just happy to be alive.
There you go. There you go.
There you go. Well,
So Wade, what's the future hold for you here? So I mean, obviously, being a Hall of Famer, we always like to talk about the past and what formulated you as a person and your sports career and things like that. But now and it looks like you've been to Africa and you bagged it all. So what do you do now? What's your future hold for Wade Boggs?
Well, hopefully there's 1,000-pound marlin on the horizon. That
Oh,
I've accomplished my Royal Grand Slam of billfish. I have all 9 billfish, so I've conquered that plateau or mountain rather. It was extremely difficult mountain to climb, but yeah, the grandeur is the one elusive thing that if you're a bill fisherman, that's the one thing that keeps you up at night, and hopefully that's in the near future.
how many people have caught 1,000-pound marlin? How common is that?
It's not common, but quite a few have caught 1,000-pound marlin. Ted Williams, he's got 1128 blue marlin, but yeah, it is one of those things that sort of you put your flag on the top of the mountain when you catch a grander.
all
Well, I
right.
guess what you're gonna need to do is take off part of your roof and get a crane to get that thing into the man cave there when you
Yeah,
finally catch that thing.
you got to open up the double doors and hopefully it fits.
Trust me, Reger, if you saw his top floor with all his fish, it's impressive, very impressive. All right, Wade, here's a question for you. I do like to fish, but I'm a saltwater guy. I grew up in Miami, and I'm not a freshwater guy, so I'm a saltwater guy. Mostly inshore, not big on going too far out. But
You get
one of the things
seasick.
about is a permit, okay? And so tell me in your okay, where's the best place for me, Barry Smith, to go catch a permit? Either what time of year and what location, who, what, and where? Because that's the one thing that I'm really very anxious to try to catch.
Isla Morada and Jim Dalrymple.
Okay.
Captain Jim Dalrymple and Isla Morada will set you free on a permit.
Send me his contact info because I love the Keys and I will call that dude. That's one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
What a name for a fishing captain, Dalrymple. Sounds like he's one of the former commanders in the British Navy.
There you
What
go.
Dalrymple.
wasn't there a guy, Clay Dalrymple, that played in the major leagues?
That's a new one to me.
All right, all right. Well, okay. Maybe it was the Fisher guy. Okay, all right. Sounds good.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, Wade, we appreciate your time being on Hall of Fame Conversations, sponsored by Mic'd Up, and we appreciate you being in the Florida Sports Hall of Fame and all the other Hall of Fames that you're into. So with that, before we exit out of here, is there anything else you'd like to tell our listeners out there and our viewers?
Well, I think that pretty much covered it all, John, Barry. But yeah, just stay tuned for future celebrities with the Sports Hall of Fame coming to you from the Sunshine State of Florida. Can't be better than this.
All right. Well, that's a good exit there. So to our listeners and viewers out there, thank you, Barry. Thank you, Wade. You've been listening to Hall of Fame Conversations on Mic'd Up Social. on behalf of the Florida Sports Hall of Fame, have a good day and look forward to the next broadcast. Take care.
Take care, guys. So long.
Bye-bye.